segments, which we will hear from the Platinum sponsors. It's a virtual platform, webinar, which, as you know, we are social animals, and especially for the Pacific Islands, where we're not used to these virtual platforms. As you know, more business relationships and lasting friendships made from PITA social events and cocktails. So one of the questions was, how would we do a virtual cocktail? We welcome also all who are joining us virtually in this PITA Business Forum, and we thank you for your presence and your participation. A big thanks to our Platinum sponsors who will kick off the session in this first of the two, and welcome, gentlemen. As you know, we are all facing this, what I call a microscopic beast, the COVID-19. There's also variants, vaccines, border closures, and of course, travel bubbles. People now call it the new normal, but it would be the now, as looking backwards would be abnormal. And it's also keeping us safe as well as sane. The 5 panelists, Platinum sponsors with us, are all global communication partners. They deal with remote communications. We have 2 satellite providers, global content connectivity solutions, advanced technical solutions, as well as billing. And the main issue in terms of PITA and the Pacific Island perspective is connectivity, as well as critical information infrastructure. The main purpose is societal well-being and the impacts of each disruptions to the community. As data increases, so is the cyber threats, and whether we should be future ready in terms of technology and applications, in terms of digital transformation, or we should look at reduction in cost structure and strengthen our operations. PITA and the Pacific Islands has suffered from this impact, especially on tourism and trade. For Fiji itself, it's over 150,000 employees who are out of work at the moment. For the telecom, there is an increase in data, even to double digits now, but the impact is from the tourism again, and a bit of it from roving. Cybersecurity is an issue now for the Pacific Islands. So for the Platinum sponsors with us in this segment, Welshman Keen, represented by Philip Victor, the Managing Director. Speedcast, satellite provider, represented by Hamish Lee. We congratulate Speedcast in their restructure and new ownership. They are not alone in that. OneWeb has also come out of the Chapter 11. Stuart Sanders from SES, and Kevin Redmond, Mesa, Australia. And then last but not least is Mike Chalk, Communications Data Group. So thank you again for your sponsorship. The main topic discussion in this first segment is the impact of COVID on your respective businesses, the adaptation to the now or the new normal. What business opportunities have arisen out of this pandemic, and any transformations or restructures that the Pacific Islands and PITA can learn from? And what would be your advice in terms of investments? Would it be cautious, or would we go out full strength? So those are the topics of discussions of interest that would benefit PITA and the members that are present in this PITA forum and acquisition, and the opportunity to thank again the platinum sponsors. So to kick off, we'll invite Philip Victor from Welshman Keen.
Thank you, George. Yes, thank you for having us, and we are glad to be part of the sponsorship program here for PITA's conference. Just a quick, a little bit of information about Welshman Keen. We are basically an advisory organization looking into areas like telecommunications, cybersecurity, and also emergency services. And therefore, we basically look into how to help organizations better prepare themselves in terms of their posture for cybersecurity, strengthening resiliency in critical infrastructures, and also in the areas of emergency services. As you know, that especially in the Pacific Island. In the last couple of years, we've been doing a lot of work in the Pacific Islands. We've been focusing on countries in the Pacific. And of course, there's this unprecedented virus has hit us all badly. And a lot of things have changed. The way we planned initially, we had to typically do a lot of adjustment. Now, our focus initially has been a lot on looking into the areas of capacity building. We've been doing a lot of capacity building programs in the Pacific Islands, especially in telecommunication, cybersecurity, emergency services. We've been looking at how we can basically help countries within the Pacific Island as connectivity increases in that region, how we can basically help them to better prepare in terms of defending, protecting themselves against cyber threats, how we can basically prepare them in terms of preparing their infrastructures to be more resilient. So Welshman Keen has been doing a lot of work in this area of telecommunications and cybersecurity. But of course, the pandemic has caused us to realign some of this, the way we do things. I wouldn't say it is on the negative side. We always obviously try to look at how we can turn the negative into positive. Yes, we immediately looked at different ways of approaching this. As you can see that, you know, even in this conference now, we are doing it on an online scale. I'm glad to say that in the past 1 year, which is basically almost just about 1 year now since we've been hit by the pandemic, we've been able to do a lot of activities for the Pacific Islands through our online engagements. It's been very fruitful with them. We can see that the pandemic has forced or accelerated the digitalization of a lot of activities. The adoption of cloud has been happening tremendously now. So a lot of these things have become, I would say, it's an opportunity for organizations to embrace technology in a wider scale. However, I personally am a cybersecurity person, and one of the things we always look at is that with the growth of technology, with the growth of digitization, with the high adoption of cloud technology, comes along a lot of vulnerabilities as well. And we need to be prepared in that sense. And so we've had the opportunity of talking to a lot of the governments, and we've had a lot of opportunity to engage with them on workshops and on how to basically secure the environment through different measures. So I think that while the pandemic has changed the way we do things, we also need to look at things as, while we embrace the opportunities that comes along, we need to also look at what are the threats and challenges that comes along with it, and especially in the telecommunication. Pacific Islands is interesting because there is a huge growth in connectivity within the Pacific Islands. We see more and more countries now being connected. We see the submarine cables being laid widely in the area. While all this brings about excellent connectivity and other opportunities that can be embraced, we need to be aware of the threats and challenges as well in terms of the cyber threats. It's going to open up a lot of new areas. It's going to open up. We see that the very most, I think the most thing that we can see clearly today is how we embrace technology for learning and development, like what we are doing now in the conferences. We are embracing the digital technology. It's becoming a norm. Today we see that everybody's is accepting the way that today conferences have been done online, learning has been done online. We personally just conducted two workshops in the 2 different countries in the Pacific Island recently for different governments, and we conducted it successfully online. And this shows that people are beginning to adapt to the new reality. People are beginning to adopt the new technologies that come along with it. And we see a growth in also the tools that are available today. For example, we're using GoToMeeting today. We see Zoom accelerating. We see Microsoft Teams accelerating in that sense. So with this, we see that more and more opportunities are arising from this, which we can embrace and we can use. And this has given us more possibilities to do more engagements in different capacities and capabilities. While all of this are happening, I think our focus is a lot into capacity building. And I think this is something that we at Welshman Kin are focusing on right now. In order for us to embrace the new reality, we need to ensure that people are ready. We need to ensure people are ready to accept the new technology. People are ready in terms of cybersecurity capacity and capability. And that's the areas that we are focusing on a lot now. And another key area that we're focusing is on emergency services. And I believe that in the Pacific Island, emergency services has become a very, very key and crucial area as well. With the different, not only just the pandemic, but also the different types of other kinds of events that could happen and will happen in the future. So these are the areas that we are looking at, and these are the areas we're focusing on. And of course, we look at how we can also collaborate with organizations like PITA. We are currently doing a lot of collaborations with organizations like the ITU, and of course now with PITA as well. Because we believe that these are the organizations that actually are embracing the technology. These are the organizations that are looking into the telecommunication part of it, the cybersecurity part of it, and this is where we are focusing on. So we hope to work more closely to build more capacities in this area, especially in resiliency, in cybersecurity, focusing a lot on critical national infrastructure, because many countries right now in the Pacific especially are just beginning to identify their critical infrastructures. Some have already identified, some are beginning to identify. That's what we have seen. And we want to ensure that organizations, our countries are prepared to build their resiliency, especially in the areas of cybersecurity, which is going to be a major threat with the growth of technology, with the growth of telecommunications in the area there. So I think those are the things that Welshman Kin is embracing today, and those are the things that we are basically working on, not just in the Pacific, but also beyond that. But our focus right now, at least for we have a 2020 to 2022 plan, which focuses on the Pacific Islands specifically. So these are the things that we're doing, and we hope that we can continue to work with PITA and other different organizations to build in this particular area. So George, thank you very much for this time, and I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Philip, and thanks again to Welshman Kin for being platinum sponsors. Yes, that's an area that PITA has been working on, and in terms of addressing the threats of cybersecurity, as well as awareness and skills. So we could build on that relationship and look at Welshman Kin in assisting us. Thank you once again. We welcome a familiar face, familiar company, PITA, Speedcast, Hamish Lee. If Hamish is not in a PITA conference, he's either surfing or fishing. Welcome, Hamish.
Thank you very much, George, and Bulla, everybody. I sometimes think I should have been born in a Pacific island because life would be a bit more enjoyable for me. But yes, welcome. And this is a great opportunity for Speedcast and for all of us to finally get together and collaborate as best we can. We jumped at the opportunity, as Speedcast always does, to be part of this initiative. And we welcome this opportunity, but we do hope in the future that we will be having fellowship somewhere in the Pacific, in one of our neighbouring islands, and doing this face to face. But in the meantime, this is as good as it gets. So, as you're aware, Speedcast, we're a provider of critical network infrastructure and services. We provide services to 4 main constituencies or verticals, and what they have in common is that they're normally remote, hard to reach locations in harsh environments. And of course, the Pacific Islands have traditionally fallen in that category of difficult to reach remote locations. But, you know, more and more subsea highways are reaching these Pacific Islands, which is fantastic. And ubiquitous coverage and ubiquitous connectivity is reaching the Pacific, but it still has, there's still a place for satellite, there's still a place for Speedcast in terms of aggregating cost-effective, high availability services who are agnostic in this region to take advantage of opportunities throughout the Pacific. So firstly, just wanted to give you a bit of a company perspective in terms of COVID-19 and how that has impacted us. And then touch on how some of that translates into our customer engagements, and then maybe 1 or 2 examples if we get a bit of time. But, you know, as you know, COVID-19 hit, and we were hit fairly hard as well. One of our main verticals that generated 25–30% of the revenue for Speedcast was in that luxury cruise industry. So we went from thousands of megahertz literally to 0 overnight. And, you know, yes, we were impacted, our vendors were impacted, but, you know, many lives were impacted who spent days and weeks and months on ships, and people, you know, in the cruise industry. And of course, the energy sector was hit at a time where oil prices and demand were low. And so that, of course, impacted Speedcast, and we leveraged a little bit too much. We'd acquired a number of different companies. So we took this opportunity to recapitalize the organisation, which we did. April 22nd, we filed for what we're all familiar with, the US Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. And we spent the last 12 months essentially recapitalizing, refinancing, restructuring the debt, and working through this temporary setback, using it to our advantage to essentially come out of this with 0 debt and new owners with a company called Centerbridge that has a track record in really taking advantage of assets that were once distressed and turning them around and rationalizing the business. So that's where we're at today. We brought in McKinsey and external consultants, and we recognize that the efficiencies of the many acquisitions that were made in the last number of years were not fully realized. Some of those were, but the integration of networks was not necessarily done. You know, the most obvious is offices around the world when COVID hits. And of course, we all work from home. For some, that was fantastic. For others, it's a nightmare. Some of my Malaysian colleagues, particularly who share a 2-bedroom unit with a family of 7 or 8, you know, where do they go to work? But fortunately, we were ready in terms of the connectivity, the Microsoft Teams that we had in place already. We went from 90 to 45 offices. So clearly, that's a very quick win. And I don't think we'll go back to 90 offices globally again. You know, we still have the 1,300 staff that we started with, but a lot of those are working from home. This gave us COVID-19 and the restructure the opportunity to rationalize the teleports that we had around the world, you know, really consolidate the hubs that we had running multiple networks, but that gave greater efficiency and a more dynamic nature of service delivery to our customers, which ultimately end up working in everybody's favor. And of course, just streamlining the processes, improving the efficiencies. We had some downtime, right? We weren't, you know, chasing ships around the world to try and deliver services to them. We had some downturn in some of our markets, but of course we also had to work with our customers who were experiencing similar pain and stress on their business, and trying to provide that flexibility with them. But there was a bunch of learnings in that we could translate to our customers, and there's no greater time where there's a reliance on connectivity. Whether that be in the metro areas of a Pacific Island or in the far remote regional areas where they're relying on government services to interact in medical and education. So that was good for our business. It was enabled us to get a deeper engagement with our customers, to extend that connectivity to locations that maybe they hadn't necessarily received before. We worked with multilateral development banks in order to do that. There was some funding available. There were new requirements, new networks, new LTE solutions that we were able to get a deeper understanding of our customer requirements instantly. It just was that catalyst that brought so much forward, good and bad, which I guess we're all probably a bit battle weary from, but it's been an exciting time. So of course, there's the usual flexibility and the partnerships, but in a downturn, where our customers are looking for efficiencies, we used our experience to try and work through their requirements. And of course, the Pacific Island hopefully benefits from more cost-effective connectivity, different types of connectivity, new technologies coming in, using SD-WAN to route that connectivity in the most efficient manner. So that's been a bit of a learning for us. But new opportunities in a sense that we had a Pacific Island that a very large miner was there, but they needed to quarantine their employees, right? The transition of employees in and out, fly in, fly out was halted significantly, but that still needed to happen in the 12 months. So one opportunity that we worked with a partner, our telecom operator in a particular Pacific Island, was they brought in a couple of barges, put them on the edge of the Pacific Island, and through a multitude of different technologies, including MEO, some geostationary, we used Wi-Fi for all the crew so they could have their entertainment, and a little private LTE network on these barges. We were able to continue the operations for this particular mine site in conjunction with one of our telco partners to continue providing service. That's an opportunity that would not have existed 18 months ago. So there are little hidden gems everywhere in this as we try and extend connectivity to everybody. And the other very, as I summarise, example where we've used, I guess, the connectivity is a partnership with RealWear, where it's a glass that you put on. It's an augmented reality. It's standard. It works over geostationary services, but an engineer, a tech, where we normally would send somebody out to provide service and work with our on-island engineers, we had to do these things remotely. And so there was a new challenge there, but an exciting challenge. And what that brought was the ability for a much quicker and greater learning capability between Speedcast and the on-island tech, learning those skills very quickly, bringing them up to speed. So we used all of those kind of technologies and opportunities to manage those situations. So in summary, thank you again, Bula Vinaka. I look forward to the next 3 days with all of you. We will share a beverage at some point, and I hope it's a great conference for you all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Hamish, and thank you again to Speedcast for being the platinum sponsors. From one satellite provider to another, we turn to Stuart Sanders, SES. We heard from Speedcast in terms of their restructuring, the opportunities they see in the Pacific Islands. So let's hear from Stuart.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the forum. For those that don't know me, I'm Stuart Sanders, SES. I'm responsible for the development and implementation of the O3B mPOWER program, pretty much everything except the satellite build. that's our next generation NEO constellation, and I'll talk a little bit about the relevance for the Pacific region of that. I'm talking to you from my home base, currently home in the Netherlands, but I'm well aware of the importance of the Pacific region to our business, and hopefully you've had in the chance the opportunity to experience the benefits that low latency, high throughput MEO can bring, and what it can do in terms of connectivity. Some of my proudest moments in my career have been when I was CTO of O3B and hearing the connectivity stories that we were able to enable across the Pacific. And with O3B Empire, it's certainly something we're looking to leverage and expand on considerably. Over the past 15 months, COVID-19 has affected so many facets of our daily lives, be it work, family, entertainment. And we've seen a dramatic shift in connectivity demands as a direct result of these changes. We're all working from home and connecting into our workplaces, into our colleagues in ways that we've not done before. And the new reality for the Pacific, I think, is it needs to look at leveraging that in a way that it's not done before, and look to diversify and develop new industries, not just rely on tourism. Connectivity solutions have changed because of COVID, but I think they need to continue to change so that we're enabling new business opportunities. Like many organizations, be it business, governmental, institutional, education, we've had to adapt to the effects of COVID-19. And it's kind of ironically, it's benefited the immense benefits of leveraging digitization, adoption of the cloud, utilizing flexible collaboration tools, and enabling globally efficient working in this new environment that we're all beginning to take for granted. This is the new norm. Of course, many of our customers' businesses have been affected. We heard from Hamish about the cruise industry. That's certainly affected us as well. But it's been important that we've been able to continue to hold our customers' hands through the last year and make sure that they can ride this through with us and be ready for the renewed business on the other side of this. But we certainly haven't sat still during the year, and I honestly can't remember a busier 12-month period in my entire career. It's been incredibly busy, adapting to these challenges time. And I think as a company, we're rightly proud of what we've been able to do, keep the business moving forward and showing some good results as part of that. But also on a humanitarian basis, I mean, SES prides itself internally on trying to do the right thing, behaving in the right way, and leveraging our global systems to help out as best we can. So specifically in response to COVID, we partnered with organizations such as UNICEF, AFP, to broadcast their critical COVID-19 content to rural communities across Africa, Europe, and Asia Pacific, including a free-to-air Fight COVID-19 satellite TV channel, which aims to inform viewers about the symptoms, recovery process in the early days, to make sure that people understood what was causing the contagion to grow, and hopefully avoid some of those steps to enable it and really to help shut it down. We've also collaborated with Luxembourg, through Luxembourg, with SatMed for projects working to support healthcare workers, NGSO healthcare workers, particularly in Bangladesh and Niger. We have an internal staff give back program, which has been running globally. We're a globally office-based company normally. But I know particularly in Singapore, I can recall staff giving up their own time to go out and give out food packages across the city and other areas. All of this time is done on it's company time. The people are encouraged to do this on company time, and the company is an active participant in these activities. We're also matching employee donations to qualified non-profit organizations, many of those which are on the front line of fighting the pandemic. And companies such as UNICEF, Red Cross, Red Crescent, Médecins Sans Frontières, etc. My own experience over the last year has been having to adapt the working processes of a globally deployed team of staff and partner vendors to maintain a development schedule for the O3b mPOWER program. And that's not been easy, but we've learned quickly and adapted quickly. So this new norm is becoming normal. As much as I prefer to be seeing my colleagues face to face, it's just not that easy at the moment. But it's not just the use of online meetings, but increased leverage of collaboration tools, the ease of business enabled by a move to the cloud, all of which are connected or enabled by connectivity solutions that we and the other companies on the call are part of. What does all of that mean for your businesses across the Pacific, for your customers, and how we serve your connectivity needs? Underpinning all of this has to be reliable, high-performance connectivity. And it's got to be flexible, and it's got to scale to these new challenges. We don't know what we don't know about the future challenges. We can guess, but inevitably something is going to come that we haven't foreseen. And I think having flexible connectivity solutions that can scale with the customer's needs is going to be key. And we feel in leveraging what we've already rolled out across the Pacific with O3b MEO, leveraging that further with O3b mPOWER, we're bringing a future-proof network that addresses these connectivity needs going forward. So we've been busily building this system over the last years. This has been my night and day focus. And despite the crazy COVID times, we're on schedule to bring that system to market in Q3 2022. So now is the time to engage with us and figure out how you can use that and what it can mean for your business going forward. The initial constellation will grow to 11 satellites and is composed of many more components than just the satellites, of course. New gateway sites, new user terminals that we'll be bringing to market, and sophisticated systems for controlling the transit of data across these systems. The satellites themselves are an order of magnitude more capable than what we've done before, and that will bring new solutions for the Pacific. Potential to connect any endpoints within the MEO coverage to any other endpoints in a flexible manner, as well as connecting both to the core gateways that we're rolling out. We can also supplement those gateways with customer-defined gateways where the customer wants it, perhaps on the end of alternate fiber head ends. And for the island nations already partially served by O3b, we'll provide the potential for all of the outer islands to be connected with the same MEO capability. That's a challenge that we have with the current system, simply because we've run out of beams. We can't land any more beams. We can land many, many more beams with O3b mPOWER and therefore connect many more endpoints. So hopefully in that mix, you'll be able to find the solution that works for you. I'll stop there and just say thanks to PITA for another great forum for our industry to exchange ideas and catch up on latest news. So enjoy the program, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Stuart, and thanks to SES for being part of PITA and for the sponsorship. The Pacific Islands, as mentioned by Hamish, there's a lot of interest in submarine cables, but also in the past couple of years, we've seen a surge in satellite as well. So the options for the Pacific Islands is there in terms of the best medium, or PITA normally sees as both as complementary. So from to satellite providers, now we move to technology solution provider in terms of MESA, Australia, and we hand over now to Kevin.
Thanks, George, and Buller, and welcome to everyone to the forum. Yes, there's always good and bad about coming after a couple of satellite providers. But just for people that don't know MESA, as George said, we're a specialist solution provider across a range of different areas: RF, service assurance, network management, security, and data. What I wanted to do is talk about maybe some of the challenges that we've talked to some of our customers across Australia, New Zealand, and the South Pacific over the last couple of years. Many of them have already been mentioned, and then talk about how some of those challenges are being met and some of the opportunities. So just talking about what we've seen people talk about in the last 2 years through COVID and not just through COVID. One of the things that has already been mentioned many, many times is the wide range of connectivity that is now available. LEO, GEO, fibre, etc. There are many, many different connectivity options, which is obviously good for the Pacific Islands, but also does bring some, I don't want to say challenges, but questions about which is best for particular applications and particular scenarios. It was also mentioned that there's more and more of these applications there's different topologies in here where they're being run in the cloud. And there are issues of where, if there are issues with applications not running, exactly who is at fault? Is it the cloud? Is it the connectivity? Is it local telco? Is it actually the end user? And that's one of the things to think. The other thing that is being seen, I think, and it was happening anyway, even without COVID, is the increase in demand for bandwidth and throughput. Obviously, there are applications, more data-hungry applications that are happening over and over again. We can talk about cloud gaming, we can talk about video streaming, there are many of those, but that's actually been exacerbated and accelerated through COVID, where, as we talk, there's less travel, so there's less face-to-face, so there is more collaboration, but just general applications that people are using more and more data. So that is one of the issues. We have more connectivity, but people are using more data as well. We've already talked about security and cybersecurity. Securing customer data, we talk to people about how do you secure customer data and make sure there are no leaks. There is more collaboration with third-party subcontractors. How do you secure your data with third-party subcontractors? And all of this is in the background of, let's be honest, there being less money available. There is less money available, less GDP. So how do we, for want of a better, square that circle, that we have greater demand but less available money to do it? Just talking about, I think when we're talking about opportunities, we're really talking still about telcos in the Pacific Islands are really utilities now. They are absolutely necessary. That connectivity is necessary. We've talked about for the well-being of people, for people's day-to-day life. That connectivity is important, but what is also important is there is a massive, I would say there is a massive growth in the expectation of the end user on what they can do with that connectivity. Customer experience is key. What we talk about with people is customer experience is key, and understanding that customer experience and understanding what they're achieving. It is not just good enough to say that they have decent connectivity, but making sure that their YouTube works properly, making sure that they can do a virtual meeting like there is today is important. Saying you've got connectivity does not guarantee you have that ability to do virtual. So one of the things that we focus on heavily is making sure that for the different sorts of applications that people run in, whether it be Zoom or whether it be Netflix or whether it be gaming, that the telcos can provide the right throughput and latency for those. And that is actually a opportunity for some of our customers to make sure that the right applications get the right amount of throughput, and therefore you reduce churn or you increase usage. The other thing that we're talking to a lot of people about is mean time to resolution of faults. How can you quickly work out who is the problem? Is it the local telco? Is it the satellite provider? Is it a problem with the fibers? Is it actually a problem with the application itself? Is it a problem in the cloud? And that complexity that has been added by having all these different applications and connectivity needs to be resolved, and it needs to be resolved quickly again. Just quickly, and that's probably where our main focus is at the moment, really looking at customer experience with QoE and QoS. But we are also talking on a variety of security fronts at the moment. One of the things that is quite a hot topic for us at the moment in the Pacific Islands is fraud. There is fraud, over-the-top fraud, where people are using, I don't want to use Viber or Skype, and basically stealing that revenue from the telcos. So one of the things that we're definitely talking about is that. The other thing is protecting people's telco assets, where we're making sure that through identity and privilege management, only the right people are getting access to your databases and your customers. So as I say, it's always interesting going live or going towards the end, because you build on what people have already said, and some of the key features that people have talked about here, about connectivity, about the move to cloud, about the increase in data, were things that I want to would talk about. But probably the opportunity and the challenge, I would say, is really for the ISPs and the telcos in the Pacific Islands to really look at customer experience and really look at what customer experience people are getting for video, for gaming, and making sure that they've got the right connectivity and make sure they've got the right traffic management in place and the right QoS to achieve that. So as I say, it's always interesting to listen to what some of the other panelists are doing, and I think some of our solutions build on some of that connectivity and also works with some of the things Philip's talked to about security and being aware of identity and identity governance. So with that, I'll say thank you for the time and the opportunity to speak, and happy to talk to anyone that's at the virtual conference over the next few days on the stand. And I hope everyone has a really enjoyable and productive time over the next few days. And hopefully next year we can all get together actually in person for a beer or whatever your preferred beverage is. So thanks for the time, and back over to you, George.
Thank you, George. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you and this group today. My name is Mike Chalk, and I'm the Vice President of Product Development at Communications Data Group. We're a BSS OSS billing provider with headquarters in the United States, and we're in the state of Illinois, just south of Chicago. And like all the companies that that are involved in the PITA show here this week and all over the world, we were certainly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic as well. And our lockdown, starting in the state, started in March 2020, so about 13 months ago. And what our governor asked us to do was send all non-essential workers home. So anybody that could do their work from home, please have them do their work from home. So about 85% of our employees started working from home, really in the matter of just a couple of short days. We made the transition. Happy to report, and really was a big surprise to most of us, is that transition actually ended up being quite smooth. We're fortunate that the employees here at CDG have the equipment and the cell phones and phone systems and high-speed internet and with secure access that allows us as a group to work from home. My entire group has worked from home for most of that period. Now, we normally have a yearly customer conference. It was scheduled to happen in April. That clearly was not going to happen. So we tried to reschedule it for the fall. As we got into the summer, we realized that the pandemic was not going to go away anytime soon. So we ended up having a virtual customer conference. So there's a little bit of a setup like you see here, where we had speakers and we set up little recording booths. I'm in my office with a backdrop here, and our 200 or so attendees got online, and that's how we conducted that. Now, that said, it has gone smoothly. For many of us, our lives consisted of the all-day Zoom meetings like you hear from others and on the news and so on. Many of our children actually attended school from home as well for a period there. So working from home with kids interrupting meetings and the dogs barking and those kind of things was kind of part of the new experience, but it was really happening to everybody. It was happening to our customers. It was happening to the vendors that we work with. So everybody was very understanding. They recognized that we're in this extraordinary time, and folks were just patient with technical difficulties of having these meetings and having them work out well. And so where we stand today is we are starting to open back up. We're starting to think about travel. There's some shows here in the United States that are going to be in person. There has been some that are in person. They try to be socially distanced. They're a little bit smaller, and they're really a hybrid model where some folks are attending in person and many other folks are looking at simulcast screens from home or their office. Now, in the last 13 months, the sales group was really the group that was hit the hardest with this, of course, and I'm probably speaking for many companies where all of the industry shows were really went virtual. So our sales staff is used to traveling 2, 3, 4 weeks a month, and they've been grounded for over a year now. So, and that also includes customer visits, visiting prospects, and so all of that ended. And that's been pretty tough for them. But like I said, that's looks like we're turning the corner here in the United States, at least, and some shows are starting to come online, and the sales staff are back booking airfare and hotels and going to get back out on the road. So that's good to see. The other challenge we've had is hiring new people in a virtual environment's a little different, although we've been able to make it work. We put ads on the online job sites and interviewed people with Zoom. I interviewed someone that started about 6 weeks ago, and they have never set foot in our building. It was all done virtually. We shipped them equipment and books and whatever reference materials they needed, and they get online and they work with the rest of us every day. So that's worked out well. I hired another person who actually decided to come into the office. I have a handful of people in my group that come to the office every day now that we're starting to open up, and so that's nice. But this work from home and work remote experiment, if you will, has really opened our eyes and has changed our mindset probably permanently here at CDG. So ownership is rethinking our office space. Maybe we don't need room for every employee. We have about 70 employees, and we're hiring right now, so we're going through a little growth period. But maybe we don't have space for everyone here because many folks will continue to work from home, at least most of the time. Many of the programmers that work for me really enjoy working from home. Some like to be here, like to interact with people. So it's very likely we're going to move to a new workspace that's a little bit smaller, that has a lot of meeting rooms and collaboration spaces, so that when we have group meetings, we can all come in and meet. And if you want to jump in a shared desk for the day and come in and work, there'll be docking stations and monitors, and you can just come into the office and work. So I really feel like that's the way we're going to go, and continue to allow folks to work from home as they choose. Now, that also opens up the opportunities for the rest of our company in terms of hiring people that work remotely. It used to be that we would look for people local or people that were willing to move to our area. I mentioned we're a couple of hour drive south of Chicago, and in a small community of about 100,000 people. And now this opens the opportunity for me to hire people really from anywhere. And there are programmers all over the world, very high quality programmers. And so that, in some regards, really is going to help me and some of the other groups in our organization extend our staff with people that may never step foot in our office. So that's nice. Like I mentioned, we're getting back to travel. We're going to start visiting customers. We're going to start seeing prospects and here in the coming weeks. Now, we're a software vendor, so we are really focused primarily on supporting the telecom and utility operators that we serve. And so part of that, and me on the software side, is I'm thinking about how do we host our application in a way that provides resiliency, the continuous delivery of our services, and making that available and making it perform well to areas really all over the world. When we think about approaching some of the PITA customers, we're thinking about maybe cloud strategy makes sense for many of the companies that are the island nations in the Pacific and beyond. Or maybe an on-island solution on a Linux server or a Windows server might make sense for some other locations. We're also looking at modernizing our software. So we're looking at the latest cloud native methodologies. We're looking at possibly swapping out some of the programming languages we use and techniques we use, really with the goal of ensuring that our deployment velocity, in other words, how quickly we can roll out new enhancements. We want that time to market period to be reduced as much as possible, reducing risk, and then ensuring automation and really just looking for that, like what you hear from software vendors. I want 5.9 uptime, and I want my users to really be able to access our application from any device, any connected device they want, whether that's a notebook computer, a desktop, a tablet, a phone, and that includes customers. So we want our customers to be able to access their billing records. We want to empower them to not just do the simple things like view their bill and pay their bill. They need to be able to recharge their phones. They need to be able to upgrade their services and take some of those self-care actions to not have them have to call in to an office and have a worker at the company make those updates for them. Another focus that we have as a software vendor is we really feel like the best philosophy for a BSS OSS solution is an open architecture. Many of our current clients and some of the prospects we talk to really want the flexibility to integrate to best-in-breed solutions to complement and extend the capabilities of our BSS OSS solution. So we have a two-way API. We're actively extending that and building integrations to these third-party applications, whether it's mapping, whether it's adding to the accounting solutions that we integrate with, and so on, monitoring solutions. So we have a lot of integrations that are ongoing as we speak. Okay. Yes. So so we're excited to consider a world beyond COVID, and like I said, get back on the road. And so we're pretty excited about the future plans that we have for our product and our company. And like I said, we hope that we can be on site for the PITA show that's going to be in 2022. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Again, we thank Philip, Victor, Walsman Keen, Hamish Lee, Speedcast, Stuart Sanders, SES, and Kevin Redmond from Mesa, Australia, as well as Mike Chalk, Communications Data Group. PITA, again, thank you for being platinum sponsors. As you know, without sponsors, it would be difficult to host virtual meetings like this on a new virtual platform. We look forward to listening and your sharing of experiences, especially with the impact of COVID. And we hope we all learn and enjoy in the next couple of days of this PITA forum, business forum and exposition. Thank you very much. Pinaka.
Pinaka, George. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks all. Bye.